thank you, everyone. Definitely really honored to be here tonight, especially with someone like Todd Heisler. Really incredible work tonight. And I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of you at the conference. And just, one of the things about Time Magazine is I'm relatively new to it. And I've only been there exactly a year. And I had this moment where I was a little bit disenchanted with working at a magazine as a photo editor and sort of the limitations of that. And so starting up again at a magazine was a real challenge. And Time Magazine, for those of you who don't know it, it's a weekly news magazine. And basically, we're just kind of giving you the news digest of the week, trying to put things in perspective. This is our Person of the Year cover from this year, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. And basically, we're just trying to make the news digestible for you. And I did that for 7 years as a senior photo editor over at Newsweek magazine. But it was very much limited to the photo department and just the print magazine. I had no involvement in multimedia whatsoever, and I had no involvement in video or even the website. I couldn't even really do slideshows there. It was very rare. And this has just been a very different experience. But just to kind of, it's been an incredible year this year if you look back at news from the beginning. We started with a horribly devastating earthquake in Japan. Then you move on to, the revolution in Egypt, what's happened there, followed by Libya. It's just been nonstop. And then there's things like the royal wedding, of course, and Osama bin Laden being captured and killed. And it's just been a constant, incredible news cycle. And working at a news magazine, you have to be someone who is really interested in being involved and engaged in the news. It's something that is its own challenge and something that you have to be passionate about and you want to keep up on. And so just to give you a little bit of background of where I'm coming from, basically, I started in photography at a photo magazine, which was a really great thing. I worked at Photo District News, which is called PDN to most people. And basically, it looks at professional photographers in all sort of genres. And then I worked there for a couple of years, and I moved over to Newsweek. And in between that time, I also worked as a photographer, which I think is really important. And not every photo editor I know has worked as a photographer. But I think it's really good to know what somebody like Todd or Martin Scholler, who's shooting this picture, what they're going up against when they're going out in the field and what they're sort of facing. Basically, this is my website as a photographer. It's not the most involved website, but basically, I think it's really vital, no matter what, that you have a web presence now as a photographer. And I think it's been for years. It's been that case. This is where I live. This is the Alice Austen House Museum. It's a quirky little Dutch farmhouse, actually. It has some Dutch history there. It's from 1690. And we have 2 galleries in the museum where we show contemporary historical photography. And I live upstairs. And if I didn't live there, I wouldn't be able to do all the things I do. I actually come home from work at night, and sometimes I'm hanging shows on the walls with friends and cooking for the openings, doing all sorts of stuff. It's a little nonstop. This is a little bit inside the museum. This is a sampling of Alice's work. I couldn't leave you without showing you who she is. But she was a social documentarian. And the reason why I show you this is just, her work was really interesting. And she not only was a social documentarian of early Manhattan downtown, but she also really passionately photographed her own interior life and the things that were really important to her. And those are the kinds of photographers that I'm really drawn to and the kinds of pieces that I really want to do. I want to take these large stories and always really strike a very personal chord with people. And I think that's something that I really bring to Time as a photo editor, and it's something that I'm definitely very interested in. This is just a little bit example of, we show a lot of contemporary work. This was an exhibit from last year. A lot of great artists like Catherine Opie and Peter Garfield and people who are just graduating school. We always try to show a range of young and old. And not only do I do that in the museum, but I try to do that in Time Magazine. I try to always make sure that along with the greats that we have like Jim Nachtwey and Christopher Morris and Callie Schell, I try to make sure that we have people that are just young, fresh perspectives right out of school. This is an older perspective. That's Larry Towell. This is from an opening that we had. We showed the Mennonites when he did the book, if you're familiar with that project, but a really great project, and this is Larry on the lawn. This was actually a Dutch performance artist we had at the museum named William Gerrits, and New York actually celebrates annually 5 Dutch days, and I just wanted to bring a little bit of how we celebrate Holland. I mean, the Netherlands back here, and this is, at time, I work for some really incredible editors, and they really are very supportive in letting me bring something new to the magazine. And I'm told constantly by our editor-in-chief, Rick Stengel, who's an incredibly visual editor, and Kira Pollack, who's our director of photography, to try to not only put things in perspective for our audience and always put our audience forward, but to think of how we're going to reinvent it. How are we going to reinvent political photography? How we're going to make it look new, somebody just spending time with a politician as a fly on the wall. And those are the challenges that I'm kind of faced with on a weekly basis. And the things that I'm trying to bring into perspective in multimedia projects and on the website, and now on the iPad, which we were the very first news weekly magazine in the States on the iPad. We launched the week the iPad came out. Which was incredible. That's a whole nother seminar, but the project was done in 2 months, and it was really unbelievable what the staff brought together. But what it showed me was the support team there that is in place is so vital to what the photo department does and how these things all come together. It's just something that I've never seen at a magazine before, and it's been really great to what we've been doing and some of the things I'm going to be able to show you tonight. But this is a young photographer, just speak of talking about seeing things in a new way. This is Devin Yelkin, who just finished school last year, and he does these great group photos at events. And I thought, who would be better to send to DC than this guy to go to boring meetings and try to make really interesting pictures, make it look new. This is Tim Pawlenty, who's a politician who might possibly run for president this year. But this is by a photographer, Dima Garvish, who just made this really interesting photo at a rally. And I'm just always asking photographers to kind of step back and just try to see it in a new way. Don't make the shot at the podium. Really spend some time. So important to just wait until everyone leaves and try to find the different shot that no one's going to have, the photograph that's not going to be on the wires or on the service. Michelle Bachmann by Mark Peterson, who's another potential Republican candidate, who's a Tea Party person. And Mark also, I think he's one of the people who really had a very interesting style very early on, and somebody I definitely want to really support, and a vision that I would like to keep in the magazine. And this was a photograph of John Boehner, who's the Speaker of the House. And this was a photograph. He won't pose for any photographs, and so this photographer was kind of challenged with making a photograph of him walking by in about 4 seconds, and it's 4 frames, and he's there with 2 assistants with lights, and it just felt very fresh to me. It was kind of an incredible way to see John Boehner, and just sort of what I'm doing weekly there. But on top of that, last year, as I mentioned, I started this job, and I come back to work, and we had to begin the iPad project, and it was called Project Noah, because it was 40 days and 40 nights, and we were looking for stories that were going to finally work on all platforms. How is something going to work in the magazine, and then work on the website, and then work on the iPad, of course. And with the iPad, it's this incredible platform where you see the magazine, it's popping up before you, and you can make it move and come to life, and you could really dive into it. And I still find it incredible. I still get excited when I turn it on and I see the hot spots and things changing and moving on it. It could evolve, and it's something that really just revived a lot of my interest in publishing. And so a photographer, really smart photographer, Lauren Fleischman, pitched this story to me about memory. And she found this really interesting short story in the New York Times about this camera that is helping patients with severe memory loss. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great if we did the longer story? And we found one of the subjects who was in the case study for about 15 years. And we found this woman, Claire, whose last name we actually had to use an alias just to protect her, because she actually doesn't recognize people when they come to the door. She doesn't recognize her own children, which she has 3 teenage kids. She doesn't recognize her husband. And Lauren thought, wouldn't it be great if I photographed Claire and we told her story through the images that the camera actually takes. And on top of that, I thought, Lauren, you should also make your beautiful photographs and try to think about photographing like the camera. And so after spending a couple of days with her, this was actually a project that was entirely photographed in 2 days. But again, the post-production, I would say, was about 2 weeks. And the planning was a little bit longer. We had to spend a lot of time talking to scientists at Microsoft and figuring out how it actually worked, and if the science, was really interesting, if there was stuff to actually get into. But what you're seeing here, this is the print version of the story about the SenseCam, and the large picture here is actually a picture taken by the camera, and it's the subject Claire playing cards with one of her kids. And then this is an abbreviated day in the life of the camera, which I was really interested in showing viewers. And for people that are only going to see the print magazine, you also want to make it have something special and feel fresh. And I thought this was the closest way we could get to that, but still kind of limiting. I was like, the camera sometimes, it takes a different amount of pictures each day. It takes pictures every time the light changes in the room. The camera takes a shot. And so sometimes it takes a couple hundred pictures, and sometimes it will take thousands of pictures. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could see an entire day in one video, and just something you can't do in the magazine. And now, with the iPad, we could do that. And then this was the last spread where you actually get to see Claire, and it's quite literal. You see her on the computer looking at the images and her diary, and they say it helps improve her memory. But let me just show the piece here so you can now see the multimedia. I'm not going to show the entire thing because it's quite long, but this will give you a sense of how it began to work on the iPad.
I'd been introduced to somebody one day saying, "This is Claire. She was our nurse." Was. Oh, that hurt so much, the whole feeling of being lost from my own life. Was this, was that, and I just wanted to be, I am.
My name is Ed, I'm Claire's husband. We've got 4 children, and about 6 years ago, Claire was taken into hospital ill with virus-induced encephalitis. She was in hospital for about 11 to 12 weeks, and when she came out of hospital, she really had no memory of the previous 20 or 30 years, I suppose. She couldn't recognise faces and link them to names or people or the memories of people.
I have no memory of any of it until being told I was in hospital. And I do remember not being able to even find my way to the toilet and back, or not having any understanding of who my children were, my family.
One of the tactics she's used for helping with that is to use the SenseCam, which takes photographs at various particular moments, either in defined intervals or on movement or changes in light.
I've got the memories, but the SenseCam pictures fit them back together so that I can relive them. I can't bring back the old memories just like that. you know. But what I can do is try and preserve my new memories. But the Sense Cam has continued the whole process, almost like making a new life. And it's all registered in the computer, and it's there for me. Whenever I want to look at it, I've got it.
It produces a sort of visual memory, and I suppose, in a way, all of us would like to have something like that for particular events we go to. Some people write diaries, don't they? And she's used them as part of her store of her friends and family, the people she knows, which she previously didn't have.
I want to manage and go forwards and create my memories into ownership and a sense of belonging to a life that I'm living. My life belongs to me again.
So basically, that was the first multimedia piece that I produced for the iPad, and the first story that I pitched to the magazine, my first month working there. And then on the website, it kind of ran, the video ran, of course, and then there was a slideshow of all the SenseCam pictures, and there were multiple things you could do online, but it was a little bit all over the place. And the time.com website kind of looks like this. And so to look at a photo story, you go to this photos page, and then basically you get to a page like this, and this is the largest you can see the photo. And every time you click on it, the photo slides down, and you can't see the caption, and you have to itch down, and then you see the caption again, and then you hit it, you know, and it keeps happening over and over again. And it was just a very unpleasant viewing experience, and it was not user-friendly. And so it's my second month at work, and we have the iPad, you know, sort of all down pat pretty much. And then one of the things I said I wanted to do on my job interview was I really wanted to start a photo blog for Time. I felt like it was something that Time needed. We create so much original content, yet this is the home for it, and it's not a great experience. And it was just something that was really lacking and unfortunate, and especially when you're investing so much money in photography. And so slowly over the course of the year, I had to really rethink my role. It wasn't just that you're a photo editor, you know, working on stories for the magazine. You're now dealing with web producers, which I had no idea what a web producer did. I've never even blogged in my life. I don't have a Facebook page. This was all really new to me. I don't tweet. Well, I didn't. Now I have to. But it was all like incredibly different. I started to work with video people, started to work with web producers, with graphics, animators, and Time still has a lot of catching up to do. We're just starting to do motion graphics online right now, and we have a whole new department that does that. But everything you kind of think about as a photo editor traditionally, or as somebody who works in a magazine, you really have to think of your colleagues in a different way, in a much more collaborative way, and truly work with them. And in the beginning, there were a lot of people who were very happy in sort of the boxes and the roles they were in. And they were really feeling, I would say we were all feeling threatened or hurt at different points. And it took a long time to really learn whose role is where, and how we all begin to kind of work together to make a piece like the SenseCam piece or any other video that we do. And so that was definitely a big hurdle. But just going to the website, which is, I think, one of the most exciting things that we've done over the course of the past year is starting this website that we just launched 2 months ago called Lightbox. And basically, we had to kind of reimagine the entire photo site. And if we wanted to do it within the system, the platform that Time.com is built on, it would have taken years. And it was a case that was kind of interesting and I think unique to Time, where they were just like, well, you guys could just do it on your own. You could just, no one seemed really excited by it until we actually did it. So it was great. It was a little hands-free, and I have to say that's a little bit unique for an institution so large, and I know not everyone's going to have that same experience if they want to start a photo site at their own publication, or I know a lot of people traditionally would want to be much more involved, but I really got to just kind of handle this on my own, and I'm just going to go back a little, but this is how the conversation started. This is literally the piece of paper where I started to draw what Lightbox is, because once again, I just am not like coming from a tech background. I'm not a web designer, and you know, I start with a pen and a piece of paper, and I know photography. That's my background. I know how I want photography to look. I know how I want to put it up on walls. I know how I want it to look on the pages of a magazine. And you know, I was getting used to how does it look online? What's going to be exciting to me, and everyone else who looks at time.com. And so we went from that. We looked at our website, which isn't so great, and then we started to get more to this website called The Moment, and it was called The Moment for a couple of months until we discovered that the New York Times fashion blog is called The Moment. And we went to the lawyers, and it didn't look good. So we moved on to Time Frames, and Time Frames wasn't the best name in the world, and it didn't really stick. And this piece of paper just shows what it would look like once you go inside from the homepage into one of the sections of our website. And this is what a video would look like. And then this is the very first iteration of The Moment. It was designed by an in-house designer who was actually on his way out the door. And we were kind of lucky also. Not only did we have a whole new photo department, sort of reinvigorating what we were doing at the magazine, but we had a brand new web designer walking in the door who kind of saw this, and he said, do you guys mind if I just start all over again? And we were like, yeah, this is really busy. This looks like every website I've ever seen, and it doesn't even look that new to me. And so we kept working, and this was another iteration of what it looked like with a slightly larger photo. And then this was from the new designer. This was his first take on it. And it was so clean and simple, and basically when you open up to Lightbox's homepage, you see the large picture on top, and you have to scroll down to see the sections, the previous posts on the bottom. And then we have 6 different categories in that we kind of catalog and archive our stories in. And this was definitely a very sort of intense design process. It took a very long time. And then after we figured out, the basis of what the homepage is going to look like, we had to figure out what's going to be very special about it. And we wanted to have true full screen images. And so this was the first version, and it's not really a full screen. It still has a lot of space around it. And then the designer finally figured out how to make it go to your screen no matter what size your browser is. And that black space on the bottom isn't there. That's just sort of in this example here. But when you're on Lightbox, you can go to this mode, and you can see it with the caption on the bottom, or you can get rid of the captions and just see images for people who just want to click through and see the visuals. And then this is what it actually looks like. This is from our Pictures of the Week, which is called Close Up. And this is from last week. And this is the version without captions. And this is the version with captions if you want to see the information. And this was our very first post. It was a post on Eugene Richards' work called War is Personal. And it looks at 13 different people affected by the war. 15 different people. And it was a multimedia video that I'm not going to show right now, but it was really important for us to show a photographer that the whole department sort of believed in, and it was something that we were saying about the kind of work that we wanted to put out there. It wasn't very pleasant work that people wanted to see. It was work that Gene's done for years, and it's actually never been published in the US in a publication like Time. It's been published in photo magazines and things like that. But we just felt it was very important to get out there. And just really inspiring that he put so much time into it, and it's incredible work. And then after we kind of figured out the design, we had to figure out, what is this blog about? And for us, it was sort of, we wanted to reflect the magazine and what we do in the magazine with photography, but we wanted to look at, what would be different about our blog. And Lightbox is definitely our blog discussing the culture of images in a very large way. Not only are we looking at photojournalism and portraiture and fine art photography, we really wanted to look at, how a new technology affects everyone's lives, not just photographers, how it affects your mother's life to store pictures or to take pictures on your phone or with some new device. A TV commercial that uses photography in an interesting way, or a great multimedia piece. And I have a short video that just kind of takes you through what Lightbox is for those of you who are not familiar with it. And so we were fortunate to get a large audience in the beginning because we launched the site 2 days before the earthquake in Japan struck, and Jim Nachtwey was one of the first on the scene and photographed this portfolio of images and also wrote very eloquently on what he was seeing. And so not only are you getting the photographer's photos, but you're getting the photographer's own words and observations, which I think is unique to a lot of magazines. You don't always get that. And so our first section's close-up, which is the best pictures of the week. And this shows you a little bit of what the site looks like when you open it and you scroll and see our stories. In progress is just new projects from photographers that aren't quite finished and exciting new work, or our photographers who are out in the field, like Yuri Kozarov, photographing from Egypt to Libya, and this is his work from Libya where he left off. Man on Wire is sort of a look at the wire photography and trying to find trends or interesting single images. And these are the most surprising pictures of the year that we did early on. And out there is just a record of exhibitions, interesting magazines, books, anything. Prizes, like Mitch Epstein winning the Prix Pictet. One of our contract photographers, Marco Grob, photographing for the UN. Different art projects that just inspire us and the things that don't traditionally get published in the pages of Time. So again, this is a photo essay by Christopher Morris. He was photographing on the other side within Tripoli, as opposed to where Yuri was. And this was a much longer photo essay from when he was done with shooting the assignment. So this was a post on Condition 1, which is this wide-angle view that you could see multimedia video on your iPad. And then profiles are just very much in-depth looks at photographers, their own lives, and all of their work. These were actually commissioned for the magazine based off of Justin Maxon's personal portfolio of multiple exposure pictures. These were for a story on optimism. And for this backstory, we sat down with Patti Smith and had her go through all her own personal photos and every photographer that ever photographed her, and just found out how it felt to be a muse to so many people. So, again, I just want to say, that's just a small sampling of what we do with Lightbox, and something that was, created roughly in the past year. But it's something that, again, I was terribly uncomfortable with doing, and it took a lot of educating, and I had to, I took a web design course, I've taken Final Cut Pro courses, and you just really have to immerse yourself into it. And by no means am I an expert in these things, and can I design a website from scratch? I could barely get the Facebook post out in the morning that I have to do in the morning. But you just should know what the possibilities are for everything. You should know how, how graphics can move, and how big things can be, and where text can be, and where it can't be live. And I think that's just the most important thing if you're coming from the photographer side, or you're working as an editor. Whether you're a picture editor or a words editor, I think it's important to everyone who stands behind the magazine, especially because, things like this that are on the website, I think are looked at more than anything. The website is now, it's our face out in the world, and it's definitely become the most important part of what we're doing. And at time, it's really interesting. I still love print, and I'd love and prefer to read the magazine on actual paper in the morning. It's not a screen that's glowing up at you, but this is just really exciting how many people you can reach, and just the depth at which you can do things, and the collaborations you could have with photographers to get out the full expression of what they were trying to do. And I love what Todd mentioned about like going out there and rethinking the assignments, and not just shooting the picture that it's going to get published. You're shooting in this much larger way, and you're kind of remembering, what was so exciting to you, and you're shooting everything again. And because it's going to be able to be used, and it can get out there. And it's something that's definitely, very exciting on this format. And just another thing with Lightbox is just, it's just a visual education for people. I feel like a lot of photo sites have, sort of this idea where they're just trying to get the most exciting new work out there and just show it first, but they're not putting people into context. And with Lightbox, I want to take every photographer, no matter how famous or well-known they are. I think most photographers aren't household names, and you have to kind of let people know who these people are, and don't make them feel intimidated when they come onto the website. And so I always want to know where the photographer is coming from, what they've done, have links to all the projects they've done in the past, and really give people a sense of why they're doing this work now. And that's like, I think, our main mission, besides making sense of the news. But when it comes to multimedia, I think Lightbox, and time in general, it's so exciting. We're just truly at the beginning of this, and there's definitely so much work that needs to be done. When I look at something like the SenseCam project, I see a lot of things I would love to open up and do over again, and maybe I will, and just update the post, because that's something that you could do with online. I think it's fine as long as you note it to the audience, and they know it's changed or something, and you don't try to cover it up. But we're just, again, at the very beginning of things, and it's really exciting. And one project that I'd really like to share with you is Dominic Noor's work in Egypt, covering the revolution there. And it's just, while he was there, we also had Yuri Kozyrev, and the stories were just changing so quickly, and it was something that happened so fast that I don't think any of us expected. But a lot of the work didn't get published in the magazine, and we were splitting the space between Yuri and Dominic because we wanted to support both of them. But a month later, looking back at the work, we were able to really sit down with Dominic and really digest the imagery and what he did and what happened there. And we could have never done that if it wasn't for this multimedia platform. And for this project, Phil Bicker produced it. He's a really great photo editor who's now on contract at Time. And we did this with Magnum in Motion and Dominic Nahr. And I'm just going to share this right now.
Egyptian people. We decide our destiny. We know what we want. We know our country better. We are not waiting for anybody to come from outside Egypt to tell us what to do. We have mind. We have a strong will. We have a spirit. We can change. Only if we come back they'll kill us all, but if we win, they will not be able to do anything. No matter gas bomb, no matter bullets, no matter anything, it's victory!
هذه الظروف العصيبة قرر الرئيس محمد حسني مبارك تخليه عن منصب رئيس الجمهورية